Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here. Welcome fellow Doctor Who fans. So I've discussed this quite a lot, but I've never committed a video to it. So, should have Doctor Who been cancelled after Russell T Davies left? Russell T Davies had a structure in place. He had Phil Collinson, Julie Gardner, and he had himself. He had a great composer. He had a great writing team. He even had a couple of directors from the classic era. You know, Russell T Davies was very clever. He had a great history for the Doctor. He gave us great actors as the Doctor. He gave us great companions. He gave us great story arcs. It was a very emotional show. Once Russell T Davies left, there was no structure in place. There was Stephen Moffat for 6 seasons. That was it. Stephen's a great writer, but he couldn't run a piss up in a brewery. Sorry, Stephen, I love you, man, but it's true, and you know that. And this is the thing. And as I've said before as well, Russell T Davies appointed Stephen Moffat as showrunner. Stephen Moffat appointed Chris Chibnall as showrunner. You can't run an IP or a franchise on those terms. There's got to be a structure above these people at BBC Drama that appoint the right person. Now, they considered cancelling Doctor Who once Russell left because they knew there was no structure in place and they didn't seem to have a clue or energy or passion for the piece. They seemed too intimidated because Doctor Who has a passionate, aggressive fandom that really kind of makes it clear what they want and what they don't want. There was even rumours, during the Moffat era of making a Doctor Who movie with a different actor, with the guy who directed many Harry Potter movies, who's directed the Fantastic Beasts movies. That's gone. Now, I don't know what happened, but I think the reaction to it had something to do with it. Personally, I'd love to see a Doctor Who trilogy of movies, even if it's not played by the current Doctor, and please, I don't want to see Jodie Whittaker in a Doctor Who movie. But, all you need is imagination. You could do something. Now, I think that was going to be an origin story, and I think that was the problem. I think it is difficult to do a Doctor Who movie because what do you do? What do you base it on? Who do you bring in? Do you bring back... Look, it's quite obvious. If you want to do a popular Doctor Who movie, I'd bring back David Tennant and put him in an adventure that we never saw him in, if you know what I mean. But if we go back if it should have been cancelled or not, yes, it should have been. It should have been. If the BBC knew what was going to happen, you look at what's happened. It's a domino effect. Without a structure, without Russell T Davies' structure, he had a structure, he created a franchise. He had the Sarah Jane Adventures, he had Torchwood. And what did the Moffat era do? Give us class. Gave us class. And it didn't work. Class wasn't particularly a bad show. It was flawed, there were issues in the show. But actually, it was okay. I'm surprised more people didn't come in for it. But it just wasn't about a classic Doctor Who character. When I talk about classic, I'm not talking about classic era. I'm just talking about Sarah Jane is from, the well-known Doctor Who character. Captain Jack was very successful within the first season of Doctor Who, and they made him his own character. And they were able to make him darker within his own series, but then lighten him up when he came back to the show. It was genius, and it worked. So when Moffat kind of came in, he should have thought about that. Now, there was rumours about doing a show about Strax and, I forgot the other two's names, but yeah, whatever they are, right? I would have watched that. They're based in the past, right? They live in Victorian London. That would have been awesome. And could have really worked and could have been really exciting. In fact, that would have been a really unique take. But there was no effort to bring someone in from a bunch of characters that we like. So let's do class. Let's stick the Doctor in there for an episode or two. We'll pour him out again. And then, so that it didn't work. I mean, spin-offs. I mean, Buffy worked. I mean, Angel worked without Buffy. I mean, so there is kind of a stringent historical thing in place where that has happened before. But in the way Russell T Davies did it with Sarah Jane and Captain Jack, it worked. It so worked. We even saw Matt Smith's Doctor in the Sarah Jane Adventures. That was down to Russell T Davies, not Stephen Moffat. So Russell knew how to build a big IP, a successful IP. But once he left, there was nothing there. So this is why I think they should have, if they didn't have the energy to actually recruit a showrunner, or to have a showrunner and someone above that showrunner to make the even bigger decisions, to create spin-offs while that showrunner was plotting the actual show. And this is what went wrong. And this is what went wrong. And this is what happens when you get Russell T Davies to appoint Stephen Moffat to appoint Chris Chibnall. And then you're in a situation now where Chris Chibnall actually cast someone because she's a woman. That's it. She has no other qualities, Jodie Whittaker, apart from being female. She's not the Doctor. They had a long list of women who would have killed to play this role. How do I know this? Because these actors have told me. These female actors are spitting mad at Jodie Whittaker that she took a role just because she knew the creative, she knew the showrunner. And I'm not talking about average female actors. I'm talking about female actors who really care about Doctor Who and really would have been challenged by that character. Instead, he casts Jodie Whittaker because she's a woman. Then he puts her in the background and puts the older male, Graham, literally as the main character. Who's the character everyone loves? Is it the Doctor or is it Graham? It's Graham. It's Ryan. Two male characters. So basically, this whole thing about having a female Doctor and it being groundbreaking it's the most sexist thing actually anyone on TV or film's ever done. Let's cast a woman, but then let's not get her to do anything. Let's not flesh her out. Let's not give her the flaws and the eccentricities that the other Doctors have got, because she's a woman and she can't be flawed, because of course women are not flawed. And this is the problem. One of the most sexist things that's ever happened. So, I do a lot of research for my videos. I watch a lot of Doctor Who videos, a lot of people talking about it. Mostly people are talking about the gender. Mostly people are talking about politics, but they're not talking about the real things. You will very rarely hear on YouTube from Doctor Who fans, because the Doctor Who fans, the real Doctor Who fans, they're gone. They're fed up. They're watching older episodes that they enjoy. They can't be bothered to talk about Doctor Who anymore. It's mainly people trying to get subscribers and clicks. There's no truth telling. There's not. It's all very fascinating, right, listening to people saying a female shouldn't have been cast and this and the other. But the reality is, if they gave us a female Doctor that actually worked, that was fleshed out, that had nuance, then the sexists wouldn't have anything to talk about. But now the sexists have. Already on Amazon Prime, Doctor Who Season 11 is on a mega deal. And I don't know how much that mega deal is. I think it's like a tenner. It's ridiculous. This is how bad and unrewatchable Season 11 is. But instead, we could have had a showrunner chosen by that godfather or godmother above the showrunner making these decisions. You want a female Doctor? Get the best actor for the job. Get an actor who's interesting, who's unique. So many female actors were born to play the Doctor, but they weren't cast. Jodie Whittaker was cast because Chris Chibnall already knew her and trusted her. And then he gives her nothing. How does she feel right now? How does she feel? She must feel a bit of a fraud, because she knows she shouldn't be in the job. She knows she can't tackle this role. She knows this role is beyond her. But above that, the guy who gave her this job hasn't had the confidence in her to actually write her anything, as I say, to give her some nuance or some fleshing out, and has actually made Bradley Walsh the main character in her show. And this is, what's this got to do with whether it should have been cancelled when Russell T Davies left or not? Well, it has a lot to do with it, actually. A lot to do with it, because Russell knew what he was doing. He took a property, an iconic property that wasn't mainstream successful, and made it mainstream successful, because he honoured what the show always was, but he gave it a modern take as well. And now there's a lot of fans from the classic era who don't like RTD, don't like what he did. But the truth they can't deny is it's still a blue box. It's still a police box. He's still the Doctor. He's still an eccentric under RTD. It's still the show. It's just modernised. A lot of classic era fans hate the fact that the Doctor and Rose fell in love. I get it. Peter Davison was my first Doctor, but I'm more revival than classic era because I know it better. Not that I don't respect the classic era, I certainly know it very well. And that's where the origins of the show came from. But, you know, Russell T Davies was tasked with making Doctor Who popular all round, and he did. And he did give it nuance, and it was compelling, it was funny. The characters were beautiful. You talk about representation, I've said this before, Captain Jack Harkness, right? I'm sure he changed a lot of homophobic people's minds after his first season run. I think a lot of people were emotional about the fact that Captain Jack kisses the Doctor. I was, and I was brought up in a homophobic environment. So this is what I'm talking about. He knew how to even do the representation thing without bashing people over the head with it. Captain Jack's a great character. He works, which means he educates us about seeing things in a better way, a clearer way, a more open way. And this is what Russell did. Many people don't know that Russell T Davies, in fact, is gay, right? So he was able to create a kind of Han Solo type of character who fancies everyone, who loves everyone. And it was beautiful and it was great. Captain Jack is wish fulfillment for Russell T Davies. That's Russell T Davies as Captain Jack. That's him being this hero. And I loved that. And what Russell T Davies created was great. I feel if the BBC felt they didn't know how to run this thing, the problem is, of course, they're not going to really, even if they considered it, they were never going to cancel it because of the money. And to be fair to Stephen, it did become extremely popular more in America after he left. And that's interesting. But that's because Stephen was doing the story arcs. There was the mystery box thing with Stephen, and I think the American audience really gobbled that up. I like the mystery box thing. I prefer the mystery box thing when he's actually got something in the box, and that's the problem with Stephen, and that's the problem with J.J. Abrams, who I admire a great lot. They do the mystery box, but when I write, I make sure there's something in the mystery box because it makes the journey more worthwhile. Stephen Moffat, a great writer, just not a great showrunner. He knows that. You don't have to tell him that. You don't have to be rude to him. He knows that. We all know that. We know he should never have got this job. And if he did get the job, Russell T Davies should have remained as a godfather, as a Kevin Feige figure above. But Russell T Davies was so tired and so pissed off with the structure of what was going on within the corporation, he wasn't interested. But if you had a corporation with some brains that said, look, Russell, we don't expect you to be here 24 hours a day. Just oversee the thing. Just, oversee the spin-offs, the whole franchise. And the showrunner will do the donkey work. So you don't have to. So you can do your other projects. Russell T Davies should have been convinced to stay at least as an overseer. Because Russell T Davies seems to be the only one who understands and knows how modern day Doctor Who should be run. He made it popular. Without Russell T Davies, 5 million people don't tune in to watch season 11 live out of loyalty. And that's what it is. I bought the box sets out of loyalty, not because I enjoy the content, and here we are now. But the problem is right now, I am part of an industry, right, that doesn't really care about the content. It cares about virtue signalling, making political statements, and when that's all well and good because entertainment has always done it, but at a more softer core level. Captain Jack Harkness is the way you do it, but now they want to go beyond that. They want to blatantly lecture us, and that's the problem. When people know they're being lectured, this is the problem. I've spoken about your ideology being another person's spit in the face. That's the problem. And this is why my father always said, don't talk about politics. Don't talk about religion. Keep it to yourself. There's no need for other people to know how you vote and what you think politically. What's the advantage of it? What advantage do you get? It's a passionate thing. That as soon as you speak about your politics, you put people off, even if they agree with your politics sometimes. So, this is what the entertainment industry has become. So, in essence, what's actually happened is that Doctor Who has been killed, has been filleted. It's a sad situation. And it's because, and I don't really blame Chibnall or Moffat to a point. I mean, Moffat made the same mistake as Chibnall. He gave us an awesome actor to play an older Doctor, something we crave for. But then he goes, oh, I know. Well, we've given them the older Doctor. He doesn't actually have to do anything. We've got this young, attractive companion. We'll make it her show now. That thing, as he claims he did as a joke, when she says to she turns around to the Cyberman and says, I'm the Doctor, and then when the credits come up, it's like her face as the Doctor. Actually, I was quite excited about that. I was wondering where that was going to go, but it was just a silly joke. But the point is, it may have been a joke, but it literally was Clara's show. So you had an older Doctor, one of the great actors on television, and he was given nothing to do because, we've given it to them. And it's the same with the female Doctor. She's there. She's got a vagina. It's fine. She doesn't actually have to do anything. She doesn't actually have to be the main character. As I say, it's the most sexist act. In a world where we're accused of sexism, it's actually the creators that are more racist and sexist. Oh, let's put a black one there. Oh, don't give them anything to do. Just put them there. And that's their attitude. Because they think this is what's got to be done. That this is how they're going to get political mileage. And, entertainment and creativity has left us now. The content is flat. And this is what's happened to Doctor Who. And what I would say to the BBC, if this is your attitude, it's pretty obvious that Chibnall and Whittaker will go away after season 12. So then who's going to come next? Is Chris Chibnall actually going to recruit the next showrunner? Which is absolutely frightening. What's Jodie Whittaker going to do? Stand outside Oxford Street looking for the next Doctor? This is so unprofessional. And as I said on the top of the show, the BBC has no structure for Doctor Who any longer, and this is why we're in absolute trouble right now, and this is why the fandom split, and this is why people are arguing. But if you get away from the aspect that the 13th Doctor is a female, and what's happened within season 11, you'll see something else. That this IP has no franchise, and unless the BBC sell it, or come to their senses, or persuade Russell T Davies to at least do this Godfather role, Doctor Who will die.